This is the Wellness Club, where we dive into all things wellness, from nutrition to fitness to productivity and more. We are exploring the science to help you feel your best inside and out. I'm your host, Cass Camp, and I am so happy that you're here. Welcome to the club. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. This week's episode is literally the most requested episode I think I've ever had, ever. We're talking all about bloating, and no lie, in the past few weeks, I have had so many people reach out to me about the same similar situation with bloating. And bloating is one of those things that is so uncomfortable when it happens, especially that really painful, hard belly bloat. That is so uncomfortable. So in this week's episode, I'm diving into it. We're talking about what bloating is, why it happens, and most importantly, how to relieve it, because it really can be uncomfortable. I don't know what's been in the air or if it's Mercury in retrograde or whatever is going on, but whatever it is, it's causing a lot of people to bloat, including me, and it sucks. Truly, that severe bloating, that hard belly bloat really sucks. It's painful. It's uncomfortable. You don't like how you look. It's a whole thing. And honestly, it really sucks when it happens. And I think we can all relate that we've been there at least once in our lives. Bloating is a normal reaction that our bodies have in response to certain foods and certain triggers. And it can really range from just mild discomfort to that really intense, painful, hard belly bloat that completely ruins your day, completely ruins your mood, makes you really uncomfortable in your pants and wherever you are. So let's break it down and talk about, first of all, what bloating even is. So bloating is that uncomfortable feeling that we've all had at least once, where there's that tightness and that pressure in your belly and in your abdominal region, and it feels like you're swollen. You notice that your stomach might stick out a little bit more than normal. You feel that tightness, you feel that pressure. And like I said, it can range. Sometimes you might just feel it a little bit and it might be just a little bit uncomfortable. And then other times it can be that intense pain that you visibly see your stomach sticking out. You feel that intense discomfort, and bloating really can range in that way. And it can also range from it just goes away to it reoccurs frequently all the time you're in that discomfort. And I will just butt in here and say that frequent, intense pain is definitely not normal and usually a sign of some sort of medical condition. I'm not a doctor, talk to your doctor, but if you are getting this frequently and it's that really intense pain very often, you definitely need to advocate for yourself, go see a doctor and figure out what the root cause of that is. But for that type of bloating that you just get, and sometimes it's really uncomfortable, sometimes it's just mild discomfort, and it typically goes away, there are a few different causes or triggers on why we would bloat more often than not. And the first one is simply gas. And gas is very, very normal, as we all know. But too much gas or a buildup of gas can cause that uncomfortable bloating that we all hate. Gas is a very normal, natural byproduct of digestion, and we need gas to help with digestion. But the buildup of too much gas is where you could lead to some uncomfortable side effects like bloating. And one of the first causes of a buildup of gas would be simply swallowing air. So if you're eating too fast, if you're drinking too fast, that can lead to a buildup of gas. Usually from this way, you end up expelling that gas through burping or belching, but sometimes it can get built up where it would lead to bloating. Similarly, carbonated beverages can lead to a buildup of gas, and usually, again, you're able to relieve yourself through belching and burping, but sometimes you don't, and it ends up going the other way, and then that can lead to a buildup in your stomach. If you usually don't drink carbonated beverages, I know this happens to me sometimes, and then I have a carbonated beverage, sometimes I'll feel it in my stomach. I'll feel a little bit of bloating in that region, but everyone's different. Gas is gas. So one way or another, your body has to get rid of that gas. But our bodies also produce gas. So when we eat food and we begin the digestion process, the bacteria in our gut digest the food and break the food down. And this is called fermentation. And that's why gut health is so important, because you need a certain ratio of certain bacteria to break down your foods. And this is a whole nother topic. Your gut is very complex, but to keep it simple, that gut bacteria breaks down your food, which is called fermentation. And if you have too much fermentation, that can lead to a buildup of gas. And too much fermentation can happen for a variety of reasons. One of them being you just eat too quickly. Another one being you overeat. And both of those things mean that the gut bacteria can't keep up with the foods. And so it's building up this gas because it can't keep up. Another reason for this can be bacterial overgrowth, which you might have heard of things like SIBO and other bacterial overgrowth disorders. And what happens is if you have an imbalance of certain types of gut bacteria and there's too much of a certain type and not enough of another type, your body's not breaking down and absorbing your foods properly, which can lead to a buildup of gas as well because your foods aren't getting broken down the way that they're supposed to. In the same way, intolerances can cause the same type of thing. If you have any type of food intolerances, your body's not able to digest and break those foods down and absorb the nutrients properly, which can lead to this same gas, bloating, uncomfortable feeling because your body's not breaking down the foods properly. If you feel like gas and the reasons that I mentioned so far are the reasons for your bloating, definitely stay tuned to later in the episode because I'm going to get into all the things that you can do to figure this out and get down to the root cause and hopefully alleviate some of that bloating that you've been having. Another cause for bloating is simply constipation. And this is really easy to understand, I think, because it's really simple. If you're backed up and you're constipated, you're going to feel that extra volume in your intestines, and that's going to be uncomfortable over time. And so one of the biggest things that you can do if you are dealing with constipation is make sure you're drinking enough water, make sure you're staying hydrated because that can help things stay moving. And also eating enough fiber. Fiber is super important for healthy stools and healthy digestion. And nowadays, a lot of our foods do not have adequate fiber in them. Most of the processed foods that you see are stripped away of their fiber, and that can lead to constipation, honestly, pretty quickly. So it's important that you're eating foods that are high in fiber. Things like real vegetables, real fruits, that will immensely help with your constipation and your digestion overall. Having fiber in your diet is important for a lot of reasons, like keeping you full and also slowing down the absorption of sugar, which helps with your blood sugar levels. But when we're talking about constipation and your digestion, fiber is what adds bulk to your stool, which makes it easier to pass. It makes it easier to use the bathroom. And without fiber, you can have a lot of those IBS symptoms. So it's really important that you're having enough fiber in your diet. Fiber also really helps with your gas and your bloating issues because it feeds the healthy gut bacteria that are in your gut. So when you digest foods, we really rely on the gut bacteria to do the work. And if you're not giving that gut bacteria adequate foods and adequate fiber and all the good things that we want, those healthy gut bacteria don't survive. And what happens is when you eat a lot of processed foods that are very high in sugar, those foods feed the bad gut bacteria. And that's what can lead to those bacterial overgrowths and just an imbalance in your gut, which can lead to those IBS-like symptoms and everything like that. So when you are eating a diet that's full of fiber and full of those healthy nutrients, the healthy gut bacteria survive and thrive, and it leads to a really balanced gut bacteria and gut microbiome. Now, I will warn you on this topic. If you are struggling with constipation and you realize it's because you are low in fiber, I would not suggest just jumping into a really high fiber diet if you're not used to it, because you might notice some extra bloating at first and some extra discomfort. And this is because, like I said, the gut bacteria do all the work. And if you've been in an imbalance for a long time where you've been feeding those not so good gut bacteria and you have a little bit of overgrowth in your gut, you can absolutely solve that and figure that out. But at first, it might be a little bit uncomfortable. So I would just incrementally add fiber into your diet, and over time you'll really start to see a shift in your bowels and in your bloating and in your gas. And throughout all of this, making sure you have enough water is super, super important. That hydration really helps with you passing everything and digesting the fiber and everything like that. So making sure that you're hydrated is super important in all of this, as always. Another cause for bloating would be a physical obstruction like a tumor, a hernia, or a medical condition like Crohn's disease, gastroparesis, or anything like that. This is a less likely cause, I would say, for the general population of people, but these things absolutely do happen and they absolutely do exist. And if you are feeling that severe discomfort, that severe bloating, that severe gas, absolutely go to the doctor and advocate for yourself. Gut issues, especially for women, are one of those things that are so easily dismissed. And if you notice that you're having this severe discomfort and you know something's not right in your body, you need to advocate for yourself in the medical field. Unfortunately, they're very quick to say, oh, it's just IBS, which IBS is an umbrella term similar to PCOS, where it means something, but it means nothing at the same time. Like, it doesn't tell you anything about the root cause. It doesn't give you any insight on what to do. And it's more of a blanket diagnosis to get you out of the office. And if you are feeling these severe symptoms, you know that something isn't right. You absolutely need to advocate for yourself because no one knows your body better than you do. I could go on this tangent forever because I just know that I've been dismissed in the medical field. My friends have, my family members have. I feel like so many people have been dismissed by doctors. You know your body, but more than anybody else will ever know your body. You know what's normal, you know what's not. And I will tell you that feeling severe discomfort, that severe bloating regularly is not normal, and you definitely need to get it looked at because things can happen. You can have a physical obstruction in your gut. You can have a physical condition that is causing all of these symptoms, and the sooner you figure that out, the sooner you can start to relieve those symptoms. And then another cause that I want to touch on for bloating are hormones, and this is something that I think a lot of us can relate to, especially right before or during our period. Our hormones play a big role in our bloating and our body image and how much water we hold on to and everything like that. And if you're noticing that you start to bloat either right before your period or during or both, you're not crazy. It's definitely actually happening. And there are reasons for this. To keep it simple, when we're about to get our period, our hormones change a lot. And this can cause a lot of things like weight fluctuations, water retention, and also changing our digestion. Some people, when they're about to get their period, their digestion really speeds up and they're using the bathroom a lot and getting diarrhea and all those things. And then other people, the opposite happens where their digestion completely slows down and they're constipated for longer. They're not using the bathroom as often. And both of those things can be uncomfortable in their own way. And this can definitely play a huge role in why you feel bloated right before or during your period or both. We also tend to retain more water during this time, so you feel a little bit puffier, you feel a little bit bigger, you feel a little bit different. And then of course, mentally you feel different and all the other beautiful things that happen during our menstrual cycle. Now, there's not much we can do to completely change our hormones without taking hormones or taking birth control, but there are different things that we can do to alleviate the feeling of bloating, and that's what I want to share with you now. So what can we do about bloating? Well, the good news is that if your bloating is more short term, usually it will just relieve itself on its own. But there are a few things that we can do that I do that can help you ease that discomfort along the way. First things first, I already kind of touched on this, but hydration. Drinking plenty of water is important for literally everything: your skin, your mood, your energy, your headaches, everything like that. But it's also super, super crucial for your digestive system. Water plays a ton of roles during digestion. It helps lubricate everything, which helps push everything out, relieve constipation, all of that stuff. It helps with absorbing nutrients, making sure you're actually absorbing the foods and nutrients that you're eating. And then it also softens the stool, which helps you, use the bathroom a little bit easier. Water also helps actually break your foods down. And if you didn't know, digestion starts in your mouth. That's the first place that you start digesting foods. And one of the biggest components of this is your saliva. And you need water to make up your saliva, which helps moisten the food, which helps you break down the food, which also contains enzymes to break down the food. And all of this starts all the way up in your mouth as soon as you start eating the food that you're eating. So drinking enough water is super important for the entire digestive process, from the time you start eating all the way to when it gets down to your intestines and then you eventually relieve yourself. Not only drink enough water throughout the day, but also drinking water while you eat really helps you slow down the eating process. A lot of times we get so excited to eat our food that we eat it so fast and then we end up feeling that bloating, that sickness, that gas. And an easy way to solve this is to just drink water while you eat. I don't recommend just chugging a bunch of water all at once because that can also make you feel a little bit bloated and a little bit sick, but drinking water throughout the day and regularly can really help alleviate some of those symptoms. The second thing that I recommend for bloating, especially if you're regularly bloated, is track your triggers and understand why and when it's happening. Sometimes bloating happens because you're sensitive to certain foods, and even if you don't have a specific allergy or you're not completely intolerant, you can have sensitivities to foods. This could be alcohol, this could be ice cream, this could be gluten, but it can also be healthy foods that can cause irritation and bloating. And especially if you're new to eating these unprocessed foods, let's say you recently changed your diet around, you could be experiencing a little bit of discomfort because your body's not used to breaking down these foods. Just like I talked about the gut bacteria, if you don't have enough of those healthy gut bacteria built up, your gut could be struggling to digest these healthy foods. And even though you're eating healthy and you're eating vegetables, your body might be a little bit overwhelmed by all of that. This doesn't mean just cut all your healthy foods out altogether, but keeping a food diary or keeping a note in your phone on when you're getting bloated and when you're not can really help you understand your triggers. For example, some things that I've noticed just with myself are the differences between eating raw vegetables and cooked vegetables, especially those cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, kale, onions, those really high fiber vegetables. I cannot eat those raw. If I eat those raw, I notice immediately that my stomach has a really hard time digesting them. But if I cook them in a little bit of olive oil, either air fry them, bake them, steam them, put them on the stovetop, in a skillet, whatever, cooking these vegetables, I have no issues eating them. Sometimes raw vegetables like that can really be hard to digest and break down and cause bloating, even though these vegetables are really healthy and good for you. Another common trigger for this is actually peanut butter versus almond butter. So sometimes people are a little bit sensitive to peanut butter. And if you didn't know, a little fun fact, peanuts aren't even nuts, they're actually legumes. So a lot of people have a hard time digesting peanuts, even if you're not allergic. Some people have difficulty digesting the peanuts in a comfortable way. So if you notice that you're eating peanut butter and soon after you're getting a little bit bloated, a little bit constipated, or diarrhea, you might be a little bit sensitive to peanut butter. And that doesn't mean you have to give it up altogether, but maybe swap it for almond butter and see how you feel. And then obviously there are the common triggers that a lot of people struggle with, like lactose, gluten, etc. And if you notice that those are some of your triggers, I would see how you feel going off of those for a little bit and see if it alleviates any of those symptoms, see how your bowels are and everything like that. I think it's really important to keep your own kind of diary and understand where and why you're getting bloated, even if it's just a notes app on your phone, like I said, or in a notebook or a journal, just so you can understand. If this is a problem that's happening often, that it's enough to affect your daily life, it's important to understand it and get to the root cause. And sometimes it's something as simple as like tomatoes or onions. I know somebody that has a sensitivity to those two foods and they cut them out and they feel so much better. There are also a bunch of companies that do this for you. So you literally can send in a stool sample and they will send you a report of all the different things that you have trouble digesting. And then from there, you can alter your diet and see how you feel. I personally have never done this because I just haven't had that much of an issue with digestion. But I think if I was at a place where I needed to, I would definitely do something like this. Or you can also see a naturopathic practitioner that specializes in this. There's a local one here that does this, that I know a couple of people that have gone to her so far, and she puts them on an elimination diet for 3 months. And it's a little bit different for every person because everybody's different. But basically she cuts out all the common triggers and then slowly adds them in and sees how they feel. Again, I've never done this personally, but if you are interested in something like this, I would definitely look in your area and see if it's something that you should be doing, especially if you are having this continuous sensitivity and problem. The thing about your gut and the thing about bloating and digestion and everything like that is your gut is always changing. So just because you're sensitive to something now does not mean that you'll always be sensitive to it. If you start to really change your diet around, eat foods that are high in probiotics, eat foods that have prebiotics in them, eat things that really help support your gut microbiome, over time, your gut bacteria can really change. And something that used to cause you a lot of gas and bloating, over time, it might not anymore because our gut bacteria are always changing. And if you really do things to support it, you might see some really positive impacts and effects afterwards. Which takes me to my next point. Some of the basics on bloating and gas are just not eating processed foods in general. Like I've been saying, processed foods are so high in salt, in fats, in sugar, and they're usually very low in nutrients and fiber and the things that we need to really thrive. So making sure that you're eating as unprocessed as possible, really trying to get healthy vegetables, healthy grains, healthy meats, protein, fiber, healthy fats, all of those things into your diet with prebiotics, probiotics can really help support the gut and support digestion. If you make this switch, especially if you've been eating a lot of processed foods before, you might not have even noticed how bad you felt until you make the switch, because you really will start to see an improvement in your gut, in your digestion, in your bowel movements, and then also just in all the other areas like your energy, your mood, and all those other things that we talk about on the podcast. Some other things that help with bloating are moving your body physically. If you are constipated especially, or you're just not feeling that good, getting things moving is going to really help get things moving, if you know what I mean. This doesn't have to be like a crazy intense HIIT workout. It can just be walking. It can be stretching. It can be yoga. Some of those low impact exercises, especially if you are feeling that really painful discomfort, that painful type of bloating. You might not want to do a crazy workout, but something simple like walking, stretching, yoga can really get things moving, and you might notice a positive change after you go do that workout. And lastly, to help relieve bloating, gas, constipation, all of those things, and this one is my favorite of all of them, you can do a bowel massage. And this is literally like my favorite out of every single thing I said on this episode. I do this almost every single day. I've showed my friends. One time my 2 girlfriends came over and we all did it together. I showed them it and it was like the most fun experience ever, and they still do it now. And it's because it actually works and it feels so good. So you can look up a YouTube video, but basically a bowel massage is a technique where you massage your bowels in a certain way that it really helps stimulate your bowels and get things moving. But it's really comfortable. It's very gentle. It's not like super aggressive, but it does help stimulate the gut. And especially if you are having that bloating sensation, simply putting your hands and like pressing on it helps get things moving, helps get that gas moving, and you start to feel a lot better. And this doesn't mean that you're just sitting there like farting the whole time. It's not really like that at all. You actually can feel the gas bubbles like kind of breaking down inside your intestines. I don't know like how else to describe it, but it feels so good. And you can do it just with your hands, but I've been using castor oil as well to help like lubricate, and it feels so amazing. I would watch a YouTube video, but I just lay on my back and use my fingertips and I go in the direction of digestion. So you want to start on your right side and work your way up and then to your left side in a circle. And I usually do anywhere from 3 to 5 to 10 circles, depending on how I'm feeling. And especially if you feel like a certain spot is a little bit backed up, or you can feel that you're a little bit gassy in a certain area, you can go just on that spot and make those small circles, and you'll really start to feel everything breaking down. And no lie, the next day you will know that you did something right, because you'll feel it and you'll feel amazing. I would definitely find a YouTube video from a credible source and watch that first and follow that. But I don't even watch a video anymore. I just watched one video and I do that, and it works very well. I'm obsessed. I love it. It feels so good. And it's one of my favorite bedtime routines. And recently I've been using castor oil to really like just make it feel even better. But castor oil also has been shown to have some effectiveness with digestion. Not sure specifically how much it works. I know some people were just putting it in their belly button. I don't know if it does all that, but I do know that in combination with the bowel massage feels really nice. Even if it's a short-term relief, I think that that's something that you can add into your routine pretty easily and free, and it feels really nice. So yeah, I mean, don't follow my advice. Talk to your doctor, all of those things. These are just some things that work for me and help relieve bloating. So I hope you liked this episode. Share it with a friend. Let me know what you think on Instagram at the Wellness Club XO. And I've also recently downloaded TikTok, which maybe I'll get into in a future episode. If you've been listening for a while, you know that I don't like TikTok. I think it's super addicting and negative and not something that I want in my space. But I decided to give it another chance and try to get on wellness talk. So far, it's been okay. It's been a lot more positive, a lot better. So we'll see how it goes. It's at Cast Camp with 2 P's because somebody stole at Cast Camp with 1 P, which... whatever. That's a whole nother topic for discussion. So yeah, if you want to follow on TikTok at Cast Camp with 2 P's. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. And if you're looking to come to the wellness retreat, everything's on Instagram. Follow along and we'll talk to you next week.